I am level 100 on Noli, and today I'll be sharing with you the best tips and tricks to help you play Noli like a pro. Let's start by quickly breaking down his abilities since they're pretty straightforward. So Noli has two passives. One of them is called Hallucinations, which basically inflicts hallucination stacks to survivors through many of your abilities. Survivors with any hallucination level reveal their aura to Noli. The highlight is darker for more intense levels of the effect, and Hallucination maxes out at Hallucination 3. At Hallucination 1, the survivor's timer becomes unreadable. At Hallucination 2, fake healing objects, such as a pizza or a dispenser, spawn to distract survivors. At Hallucination 3, a hostile mirage of Noli appears and attacks the survivor. Do not look at it. At times, there will also be a Juicer protection shield, even if there isn't one. And when that happens, don't look at where it's coming from, just ignore it. But being hit by the real Noli removes all hallucination stacks. Noli's second passive is called Prankster, which all it does is that at the start of the round, Noli spawns fake generators in any place where all the 5 real generators could have spawned but didn't. Completing a fake generator grants 1 hallucination stack. Fully completing a fake generator instantly grants hallucination 3, and then obviously fake generators give no progress or points. Now this is important if you're playing against Noli, because there are ways to tell if a generator is fake. There's a ton of different ways, but I'll only mention the ones I think are the best. So one of them is that there's a faintly visible Noli face at the top of the fake generator. Another one is that in the actual puzzle itself, a number will be missing. The actual interact prompt will have errors in it, so repair will be spelled incorrectly. Same thing with the word generator. Now let's talk about the actual abilities. So first we have his M1, which has a cooldown of 1.8 seconds and a windup of 0.4 seconds. It deals 25 damage, and the hitbox for Noli is the same as Jason, 1X, and John Doe. Since Noli has a windup, survivors are going to be able to juke you more effectively because they have more time to react. But since you have the same hitbox as Jason, you can actually flicker to hit the survivor and counter the juking, just like Jason can. So it's good to keep that in mind. Next ability is Void Rush. Personally, my favorite ability. It's very similar to Walk Speed Override in that it's a linear dash, but the big difference with Noli is that you can actually turn while using it. It has a cooldown of 20 seconds, but if you cancel the charge up, so not the ability itself, the charge up, the cooldown is only 1.2 seconds. If you hit a survivor with your initial Void Rush, it deals 10 damage and applies Hallucination 2 for 20 seconds. After 0.85 seconds, Noli can perform a re-rush, which is significantly faster than the initial rush, but this is where it gets interesting. On either the initial rush or the re-rush, if the survivor already has Hallucination 2 or higher, Noli will slam them into the ground. This slam deals an additional 30 damage on top of the 10 from the hit, so a total of 40 damage in that moment. What used to confuse me is that sometimes on my initial Void Rush, Noli would immediately slam the survivor instead of giving me a re-rush. The reason for that is all about hallucination stacks. So to kind of simplify it, if the survivor already has Hallucination 2 or higher before your initial Void Rush, you hit them for 10 damage and immediately slam them for 30, totaling 40 damage, and you do not get a re-rush. But if the survivor does not have Hallucination 2, when you hit them with the initial Void Rush, you just deal 10 damage, and it applies Hallucination 2. Then you get your re-rush. And if you hit them again, since they now have Hallucination 2, you deal another 10 damage plus the slam for 30, which adds up to 50 damage in total. So basically, if you slam on the first rush, that means that the survivor already had Hallucination 2 or more. And on that slam, you'll just get a total of 40 damage. If you don't slam them on the first hit, that means that the survivor didn't have Hallucination 2. You'll get your re-rush, and then since they have Hallucination 2, you'll slam them, and that in total is 50 damage. So now a few tips for Void Rush. The best time to use it is when survivors are out in the open. That's when they're most vulnerable, since they won't have walls, corners, or other obstacles to juke you with. When they're just out there in the open, it's way easier to hit them with Void Rush because they can't hide or break line of sight. Also, when survivors are grouped up, that's your moment to go full-on Wally West mode. You can literally start Void Rushing through everyone. As long as the survivors don't already have Hallucination 2 or higher, you'll keep getting a re-rush for each new person you hit. So you basically turn into A-Train and start blitzing the entire group. It's extremely satisfying. Another tip, you can cancel Void Rush mid ability to bait out survivor abilities, especially against guest 1337, who's one of the stronger counters to Noli. If you stop just before hitting them, you can bait out their block and make them waste it. That opens up a safer, more aggressive playstyle for you, since you won't have to worry about getting parried while attacking them. And here's a cool tech. You don't even need to fully activate Void Rush to do this. Just canceling the charge up can be enough to force a reaction, since a lot of survivors panic as soon as they see you about to rush them. Now, here's something else. You can actually hit people through walls with Void Rush as long as the wall is thin enough and the survivor is right next to it. So if you know someone's hiding just behind the wall or around the corner, you can sometimes aim at the wall and still land the hit. Obviously, this only works with thin walls, and sometimes the hitbox is kind of janky and doesn't register. So don't expect it to work 100% of the time, but it's definitely worth trying in those situations. Also, try to use Void Rush when you have high stamina. That way, if you miss or the hitboxes bug out like they sometimes do, you still have enough stamina left to keep up the chase and apply pressure. And don't forget, you can curve while using Void Rush, so absolutely take advantage of that. Next ability is Nova, which is a projectile that explodes on impact. It has a 12-second cooldown and deals 15 damage. When Nova hits a survivor or a wall, it causes an explosion that pulls survivors towards the blast and deals 15 damage. If it hits the floor, the explosion still goes off, but the hitbox is smaller than usual. You can also manually detonate the Nova before it hits anything, but keep in mind, doing that will reduce the explosion's radius, making it harder to hit multiple people or apply pressure in a wide area. Since Nova has pull-in power, you can use it to stop loops or close distance between you and a survivor. So if someone's ahead of you or they're looping you around corners, a well-placed Nova can disrupt their pathing. When it hits, it pulls them towards the explosion, ruining their spacing and making it harder for them to escape or keep looping effectively. If you're already close to a survivor, you can throw Nova at their feet, and if you hit them, it will pull them towards you, which lets you immediately follow up with an M1 for a quick combo. Another good use is when survivors are on high ground or ledge positions. You can throw Nova out at them and either let it explode or manually detonate it to pull them off the edge. From there, you can go for a punish or keep the pressure going. It's great for denying positioning advantages. If there's a group of survivors, Nova becomes really valuable for splash damage. Just throw it in the middle of them and you can hit multiple people at once. The pull also messes up their spacing and can open them up for Void Rush or M1 follow-ups. And just like Void Rush, Nova can hit survivors through walls, if the wall is thin enough. Unlike Cool Kid's projectile, it doesn't pierce through solid objects by design, but thanks to the explosion radius, if a survivor is close to the other side of a thin wall, you can still hit them with splash damage. Super useful when people are just hiding around corners or behind a cover or like doing a generator and they think they're safe. The last ability for Noli is Observant, which its cooldowns are 30 seconds after you use the ability, 25 seconds at the start of the match, and 15 seconds if you manually cancel it. Noli enters a stance where all generators are highlighted and a mirage appears above each one as a visual to warn survivors. After a 1.5 second windup, Noli can teleport to a selected generator. During this process, survivors are affected by hallucination based on their distance from the targeted generator. So 20 studs away gives you hallucination 1, 50 studs away hallucination 2, and more than 100 studs away gives you hallucination 3. If Noli is stunned during the windup or while in the stance, the ability is cancelled. After teleporting, Noli gains stun immunity for a short duration to prevent sentinel survivors from camping the generator and punishing him immediately. Also, this ability starts with a reduced cooldown at the beginning of the match to prevent unhealthy or oppressive gameplay patterns. So I think there are two main benefits that make this ability really useful. First, it inflicts hallucination on survivors, which gives you great tracking. Once they're affected, it's much easier to keep tabs on where they're going. Second, it works as a mobility tool, helping you traverse the map quickly, especially during last man standing, when every second matters and you need to close distance fast. My recommendation is to use Observant frequently. Not only does it give you constant eyes on survivors through hallucination, but if you're ever far from the action, you can use it to quickly reposition by teleporting across the map. Also, because all generators are visually alerted when you activate it, it kind of creates this phantom pressure. Survivors will often hop off generators or start panicking when they see the mirages. Even if you're not actually teleporting to them, this wastes their time, throws off their rhythm, and sometimes leaves them vulnerable, either caught off a generator or ambushed if you do choose to teleport. That said, the only thing you really need to be careful about is not using it too recklessly, especially as the game starts winding down. You should always try to have Observant available for last man standing. It's incredibly valuable in that final phase for catching the last survivor quickly. And if you already burned the ability with a long cooldown, it could cost you the match. So use it often, but always manage the cooldown smartly as you get closer to the end game. Now that you know everything you need to know about Noli's abilities and how to use them effectively, let's talk a bit about his playstyle. Honestly, when playing Noli, you really need to focus survivors. That's because Noli doesn't have great chase potential. He lacks any form of CC, which is crowd control, basically affects that slow survivors down, and that's a big part of what makes it harder to run people down with him. And in my opinion, that's his main weakness. If you're not actively targeting a survivor and sticking to them, Noli starts to fall off hard in pressure because you just can't slow people down the way other killers can. Sure, you can land the Nova or maybe catch them with a Void Rush, but the windups on those abilities can actually give survivors even more time to create distance. So unless you're really precise with your ability timing, you're basically gambling on these chases. Even if you land something, it still feels like a 50-50 because survivors aren't getting slowed. They can still run just as fast, reposition, or hide. So the key is to take every opportunity and don't let go. If someone slips up or is out of position, you need to commit and capitalize. That's how you win with Noli, by applying constant pressure on specific targets rather than trying to chase everyone evenly. And some people are going to complain about being targeted, but honestly that doesn't make sense. In order to eliminate a survivor, you have to focus them. That's literally how killer works. So if someone starts whining about targeting, you can just ignore it. They're upset that the killer is doing what the killer is supposed to do. It's part of the game, plain and simple. If you made it this far into the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Only 0.2% of my viewers are actually subscribed to the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.